The aroma of fried chicken filled the Brown family's apartment in Brooklyn that evening. Tracy sat quietly at the dining table, scrolling through her phone while her mother, Mrs. Brown, served dinner. "Tracy," her mother began sharply. William Jones called again. "He said he's been trying to reach you for 3 days. Why are you ignoring him?" Tracy didn't look up. "Because I don't want to marry him, Mom." Her father looked up from his plate. "And why not? He's rich, educated, and willing to marry you. Do you know how many girls would kill for that opportunity?" Tracy sighed, her voice steady. "Because I'm already in love with someone. His name is Ethan." Mrs. Brown froze mid-motion, the serving spoon clattering onto the plate. "Ethan?" she asked, her tone heavy with disapproval. "That boy who works at the auto shop?" "Yes," Tracy replied softly. "He's kind, honest, and hard-working." Mr. Brown's voice boomed across the table. "Hard-working doesn't pay bills. Love doesn't buy a house or put food on the table. That boy can't give you the life you deserve." Tears welled in Tracy's eyes, but she refused to be silent. "I don't want to marry for money, Daddy. I want to marry for love." Her mother folded her arms. "Then don't complain when life humbles you," she said coldly. "Because in this world, love without money fades fast." Tracy pushed her chair back and stood up. "Maybe, but I'd rather struggle with someone who loves me than live in luxury with someone I don't." Her father slammed his fist on the table. "As long as you live under this roof, you'll do what we say." Tracy's voice trembled, but her spirit didn't. "Then maybe I shouldn't live under this roof anymore." Tracy left home that night with just a backpack and her laptop. Ethan welcomed her with open arms into his small rented studio apartment in Queens. It wasn't much, a tiny space with a couch, a small kitchen, and a single bed, but it felt peaceful. "Are you sure about this?" Ethan asked gently as he set a cup of tea before her. "You left your parents for me. I don't want to be the reason you lose your family." Tracy smiled faintly. "You're not the reason. Their pride is." He sighed and held her hand. "I'll do everything I can to make things right. I promise you, Tracy, one day they'll see what I'm capable of." "I already see it," she whispered. They built a quiet life together. Tracy found a job at a marketing firm downtown, while Ethan continued working at the auto shop. On weekends, they'd sit on the rooftop, watching the New York skyline, dreaming of a better life. "I don't need much," Tracy said one evening, resting her head on his shoulder. "Just you and peace." Ethan smiled. "One day, I'll give you both, and more." But peace didn't last long. Her parents began calling, demanding she return home. They accused Ethan of manipulation, saying he was using her. "You're throwing your life away for a mechanic," her mother yelled over the phone. Tracy ended the call in tears, but Ethan hugged her. "Don't let them break you," he said softly. "Sometimes, love has to survive fire before it shines." Months later, Mrs. Brown called again, her tone unusually calm. "Tracy, William Jones is hosting a charity gala next week. He personally asked me to invite you. At least come and see what you're missing." Tracy hesitated. Ethan overheard and smiled. "Go," he said. "You have nothing to lose. Maybe it'll help them stop judging me." She reluctantly agreed. On the night of the event, she wore a simple navy blue gown Ethan had saved up to buy her. She entered the grand hall filled with chandeliers, laughter, and wealthy guests. Her parents waved her over proudly, introducing her to everyone as their daughter. William, tall and well-dressed, approached with a smug grin. "Tracy, it's good to see you again," he said, kissing her hand. "Nice to see you too," she replied politely. He smirked. "I heard you've been keeping yourself busy. But you know, life could be easier if you made the right choice." Tracy forced a smile. I already made it. Her parents shot her a warning look. As they continued mingling, Tracy felt out of place, until the room suddenly went quiet. A man walked in wearing a sleek black suit. The whispers started immediately. That's Mr. Ethan Carter, someone murmured. CEO of Carter Industries. Tracy froze. Ethan Carter. Her Ethan. The man turned around, and her heart skipped. It was him. Ethan. Everyone turned as Ethan confidently approached the center of the hall. His calm, commanding presence filled the room. William's expression twisted from confidence to shock. Mrs. Brown whispered to her husband, Wait, that's Ethan Carter? The billionaire investor. Mr. Brown blinked rapidly. But he's supposed to be poor. Ethan smiled when his eyes met Tracy's. Good evening, everyone, he said into the microphone. It's a pleasure to be here for a cause that matters, supporting single mothers and young entrepreneurs. Tracy stood frozen. The man she loved, the man her parents rejected, was one of the most powerful businessmen in New York. After the event, Ethan approached her family. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, he said warmly. I believe we've met, indirectly. Mrs. Brown stammered. We didn't know. It's okay, Ethan said gently. I don't blame you. Sometimes we judge people by what they seem to have, not who they really are. He turned to Tracy and smiled. Shall we go home, love? The room went silent. William's jaw tightened, his pride shattered. Tracy's parents stood speechless as their daughter walked out hand in hand with the man they had once despised. The next morning, the Browns visited Ethan and Tracy's apartment, though they now realized it wasn't just an apartment. Ethan had moved Tracy into a luxurious penthouse overlooking Central Park. Mrs. Brown clutched her purse nervously. Ethan, we're so sorry, she began. We had no idea who you really were. Ethan smiled kindly. You don't need to apologize for not knowing my worth. I prefer being valued for my heart, not my bank account. Mr. Brown lowered his head. We were wrong about you, and about love. Tracy's eyes softened. You see now, Daddy? Love doesn't always come wrapped in gold. Mrs. Brown began to cry. All we wanted was the best for you. And I found it, Tracy said gently, taking Ethan's hand. Her father extended his hand toward Ethan. Welcome to the family, son. Ethan shook it firmly. Thank you, sir. The morning sun painted soft golden rays across the Manhattan skyline. Tracy stood before her mirror, her hands trembling slightly as her bridesmaids helped her into a shimmering ivory gown. You look like a dream, one of them whispered, eyes glistening. Tracy smiled nervously. I feel like one. I still can't believe this is happening. Her mother stepped forward, wiping a tear. I used to think happiness came from wealth, Mrs. Brown said softly. But today, I see it in your eyes. That's real wealth. Tracy hugged her tightly. Thank you, Mom. That means everything. Downstairs, Ethan adjusted his tie, surrounded by his groomsmen. His best man teased, You've built billion-dollar companies, but you're sweating like you're about to face investors. Ethan laughed. Because none of those investors ever mattered as much as this moment. When Tracy appeared at the garden entrance, the music softened, and every guest turned. Ethan's heart skipped. She was radiant, walking gracefully, her veil flowing behind her like a whisper of light. As she reached him, he whispered, You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. She blushed. And you're the man I prayed for. The officiant smiled. Love isn't about what we see in the bank, but what we see in each other. When they exchanged vows, their words came straight from the soul. I promise, Ethan said, his voice breaking, to love you when the world cheers and when it's silent. To hold you when you fall and to remind you who you are when you forget. Tears rolled down Tracy's cheeks. And I promise to walk beside you through every storm, never ahead or behind, but always with you. When the officiant declared, "You may now kiss your bride," cheers erupted. Fireworks burst in the clear sky. Mrs. Brown wept openly. Mr. Brown squeezed her hand. "We tried to buy her happiness," he said softly, "but she found it for free." That night, under fairy lights and jazz music, Tracy and Ethan danced barefoot on the grass. The world around them disappeared, leaving only two hearts, one rhythm, and the promise of forever. Married life brought new energy into Tracy's world. She and Ethan moved into a modern penthouse overlooking Central Park. The morning smelled of fresh coffee, soft jazz filled the kitchen, and laughter echoed through the rooms. One afternoon, Ethan called her into his study. "I have something for you," he said with a boyish grin. Tracy raised an eyebrow. "What did you do this time?" He handed her a sealed envelope. Inside was a legal document. She gasped. "Ethan, what's this?" "It's a foundation," he said proudly. "The Tracy Brown Empowerment Fund. It'll support young women who want to start businesses but face family or financial barriers." Tears flooded her eyes. "You did this for me?" "For you, and for every woman like you who was told love and ambition couldn't coexist." She hugged him tightly. "You have no idea how much this means." Later that week, the foundation launched with media coverage. Tracy gave a moving speech. "When I chose love over riches, many thought I was foolish. But love gave me strength. This foundation is proof that love can build more than money ever could." Her parents watched proudly from the front row. Mrs. Brown leaned toward her husband and whispered, "That's our daughter." Mr. Brown nodded. "And we almost lost her because we forgot that love, not wealth, defines success." As the crowd applauded, Ethan stood at the back, his eyes soft with pride. That night, as they watched the city lights from their balcony, Tracy whispered, "I feel like my purpose is finally unfolding." Ethan wrapped his arm around her. "Your purpose has always been there, love. The world just caught up to it." It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when Tracy received an unexpected visitor, William Jones. He stood at her office door, drenched but calm, holding an umbrella. "William," she said, surprised. "What brings you here?" He offered a faint smile. "May I come in? I owe you a conversation." She gestured toward a seat. "Of course." He sat down, his tone humble. "I used to think money could buy anything, even love. When you turned me down, I told myself you'd regret it. But seeing you and Ethan, I realized I was chasing emptiness." Tracy leaned forward, listening quietly. "I've been trying to change," he continued. "I started volunteering at youth centers. I'm learning what it means to actually help people, not just write checks for attention." "That's good, William," she said softly. "Change begins when pride ends." He smiled slightly. "You always had that way of seeing through people." "Everyone deserves a second chance," she said. "You just have to keep walking that path." Before leaving, he said, "Thank you, Tracy. I wish you both happiness. You earned it." As he left, Ethan walked in, curious. "Was that William?" Tracy nodded. "Yes. He's not the same man anymore." Ethan smiled. Sometimes losing the right person helps us find the right version of ourselves. Tracy leaned against him. "I'm just glad our story changed more than our lives." The following year brought challenges. One of Ethan's closest business partners betrayed him, leaking confidential deals and causing a massive stock drop. Headlines screamed, "Carter Industries faces collapse." Reporters swarmed outside their home. The same people who once praised Ethan now questioned his worth. One night, he sat in silence, staring at his reflection in the window. "Maybe they were right," he muttered. Maybe I was just lucky. Tracy knelt beside him, placing her hands on his knees. Don't say that. You built everything through integrity and kindness. That doesn't vanish because of betrayal. But I failed you, he whispered. You didn't fail me, she said firmly. We're partners. If we fall together. And we'll rise again, together. Her strength reignited his will. Over the next months, Ethan worked tirelessly, rebuilding his brand. Tracy stood beside him in every meeting, calming storms, handling press, and motivating the staff. One evening, after a particularly tough day, Ethan came home to find the dining table set with candles and homemade pasta. Tracy smiled. You used to cook for me when I was tired. Tonight it's my turn. He chuckled softly. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do, she said, kissing his forehead. Because when everything else falls apart, love keeps us standing. By the year's end, Ethan regained control of his company. His comeback became a headline of hope. Carter Industries rises stronger, led by faith and family. 2 years later, laughter echoed through their home. Tracy sat by the window, rocking a baby girl in her arms. Ethan entered quietly, smiling as he watched them. She has your eyes, he said softly. And your stubbornness, Tracy teased. They named her Faith Carter, because faith had carried them through everything. At the christening, the Browns sat proudly in the front row. Mr. Brown held Faith tenderly, tears in his eyes. You were right, Tracy, he said quietly. Love above riches, that's what truly matters. Mrs. Brown nodded. I used to pray you'd marry into wealth. Now I thank God you married into peace. Tracy smiled warmly. Wealth fades, peace stays. That evening, as the guests departed, Ethan and Tracy stood on their balcony overlooking New York's shimmering skyline. Do you ever think about how it all started? Ethan asked. Every day, she replied softly. My parents thought you were poor, but you were richer than anyone I'd ever met, in heart, in character, in love. He smiled, pulling her close. And you gave me something money could never buy, purpose. Tracy rested her head on his chest. You know, Ethan, if I had listened to them, I'd be rich but empty. Instead, I found a love that filled every space inside me. He kissed her forehead gently. Then we both won. Below them, the city lights sparkled like stars. Faith slept peacefully in her crib, the moonlight brushing her face. Tracy whispered, one day, she'll know our story, how love defeated pride, how peace conquered wealth. Ethan smiled. And maybe she'll grow up believing that true love is the greatest fortune of all. As the night breeze swayed the curtains, their laughter filled the air, warm, alive, and eternal.